So it's great to be back 2 years on to see this reserve. Where are we standing at the moment?
So we're currently on the Heath, which is a part of the site not normally accessible to the public, but we're actually standing on one of the last remaining bits of spoil heap left over from when the site was a coal mine. This will, over the coming years, slowly turn back into land for nature as well. We see vegetation slowly start to take it over, nature come back into this space, so that's a really exciting process. Coalface to wild space.
Coalface to wild space, I love it, that's brilliant. We've now moved to this area that's being vegetated, so what's going on here?
So, just a little down in front of us on the hillside there, a few years back we deliberately planted some heather on that hillside. Okay. We're trying to recreate lowland heath habitat, which is quite rare in the UK now, it's a bit in decline, so we're trying to create some of that habitat here to help nature. And actually over the last few years the heather has just naturally spread, so though we didn't plant it quite up here, it has spread through natural succession. This habitat is great for bees and butterflies. We survey in the summertime, we do transects around this area looking for butterflies and see some great results. Like this year we had Essex skippers and common blues.
Common blues are just wonderful little butterflies, aren't they? Feeding on the nectar from the heather.
Yeah. One of the really exciting species that we'll see up around here particularly is a green woodpecker.
Presumably they're up here feeding on insects. Which particular insect are they feeding on up here?
They particularly like going for anthills, which we can go and see just over the way.
Well, let's go and see them then.
So this is an anthill, we think made by black garden ants. These are quite common in the UK. Yeah. Typically, they actually burrow underground, but because of the type of soil and substrate we have here, obviously as an ex-mining site, we think that's just very difficult for them to burrow underground. So we tend to see them make more sort of classic anthills above ground instead.
So these are like yellow field ants building these mounds above the ground?
Yeah, exactly like that.
That's amazing. So what's happened here? It looks like something's been trying to dig into this and eat these ants.
Green woodpeckers, they both feed on ants and use them for a sort of maintenance procedure called anting. Woodpeckers will basically rub ants over their bodies. They might pick the ants up in their beaks and physically rub them on themselves, or they might try and roll around in them. Either way, it's because the ants secrete a substance that works as a kind of fungicide, as an insecticide, and helps keep the woodpeckers healthy.
So it's green woodpeckers having a bath in ants. Is this what you're saying?
Basically, that's what I'm saying. So we're here on Main Lake specifically to show off one of our projects from this year, which is launching a new pontoon raft. Now, because of climate change, we're seeing more and more high intensity, high rainfall events in the summer months. This is especially problematic for us because it affects the water levels in Main Lake quite dramatically. And as you see behind us, there are a number of natural islands on the lake where many of our birds will nest and breed. But of course, when the water level rises dramatically and in a short space of time, that can flood out and wash away those bird nests. So this structure, we're hoping it will attract primarily common terns to nest on it, but maybe other birds as well, we'll see. The idea with this is particularly that it can withstand those fluctuations in the water levels and hopefully provide a happy home for nesting birds for a long time to come.
This is a silver birch tree here. What was this hole here?
So this was a willow tit nest.
That's amazing because they're one of the most rapidly declining birds in this country, aren't they?
They are. They have declined 94% across the UK since the 1970s. So that's a massive, awful decline in that species. But we do have them resident at Fairburn Ings and they breed here, which is really exciting. Part of the conservation work we do around the site to attract willow tits and to make it an attractive place for them to nest, part of that is managing our birch and our scrubland, strategically cutting them and making them a kind of attractive home to nest in.
Yeah. It's true in the past that these species, these trees and these birds would have evolved when we had large mammal fauna in the air. We would have things like, straight-toothed elephants and woolly rhinoceroses bashing us off, don't you?
I mean, if you want to think of us as the modern equivalent of a rhinoceros or a woolly mammoth.
We're now on the top of Fairburn Tips and we've got some RSPB volunteers here. What are they doing?
So they are currently clearing scrub out of our reed beds. This is a really big job that we do through the late autumn and winter months on site. And this is really just about maintaining the sort of ideal habitat in the reed beds for breeding birds, and particularly for bittern.
You get bittern here.
We do.
It's great to have bitterns nesting back inland, because a few years ago there was just a small number out on the east coast, mainly in reed beds next to the sea, which were threatened by sea level rise and climate change. So I guess this is one of the opportunities for EcoTalk to work with RSPB to help create habitat for this rare bird. And it's increasing, is it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's been one of the huge success stories in Britain in recent years. It's really exciting for Fairburn Ings to be part of that, and to know that we have got bitterns here nesting on site.
Oh, it'd be great to come back in the spring and hear that really distinctive boom. So if any EcoTalk customers want to come and hear a booming bittern on some land that they've helped purchase, come to Fairburn Ings in April or May.
Absolutely. So in front of us, a little in the distance, you can see our heronry,
Oh yeah.
which is a really exciting nesting and breeding spot for some of our herons, egrets, spoonbills and cormorants.
Oh wow.
We've actually had this year our most successful year on record
Wow.
for spoonbill breeding at Fairburn Ings, which is really exciting.
So how many?
7 successful nests, out of which came 14 teaspoons.
14
Baby
teaspoons,
spoonbills,
baby spoonbills. They're called teaspoons.
Called teaspoons.
Who
yeah.
invented that name?
I'm not sure it's the correct scientific term, but
But it's an accurate one, isn't it? Because they got really little sort of spoon-shaped bills. Yes, they're really cute. Well, Jen, thank you very much for showing us around Fairburn Ings. It's been great to be here and see what's happened over the last few years to Fairburn Ings. What can we expect in the future?
well, we've got lots of exciting projects we're hoping to get started on over the next few years. We're going to do some rejuvenation work on our wetlands. We're hoping to create some new pools and bodies of water, maybe work on our heronry, and we'd also love to get 1 or 2 more new pontoon rafts like the one we went to see.
Oh, right, so we can actually have more turns that can actually survive the intensive rains of the spring so they don't get flooded out.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's great that we've got this brilliant site sort of turning sort of old coal spoil heaps into this wonderful reserve. It's just a sort of a stunning example of turning back the clock and giving land back to nature, which is what EcoTalk plus RSPB is all about.
Yeah, come and see how we've turned Coalfaces into wild spaces.
Coalfaces into wild spaces, what a wonderful term.